I appreciate you taking time on short notice to chat with me today.
No problem, man.
So how's everything? Kind of a crazy 24 hours, or I guess like maybe like a week in total with the bumping into the main event, and now you get called up to the UFC. I mean, kind of walk me through how did this all come about?
Yeah, they called me up. I want to say it was Thursday night, and said, "Hey, would you take this fight?" And I said, "Yes." So they sent me a contract over, and we got released from Invicta, and then we signed the UFC deal, and then they released it as fast as can be, pretty much as fast as they put me into that main event in Invicta. So I kind of knew it was always going to be this fight. So, I think me and my coaches and my team have been talking about it for years, and I just knew they weren't going to give me the easy route. So here we are in this predicament, and you know what? I do think I'm one of the best in the world, and I think that I'm on the top of my game, and no time's better than this time.
I love it. I love it. It's funny, Tonya, because we talked last year. I had you on the podcast, and we talked about, you're running Invicta and the things you did and the things you've done. And, kind of, I don't know, maybe a little bit of irritation, I guess, or I think understandable irritation that the UFC hadn't signed you or brought you up, especially considering where the bantamweight division was. I mean, when you got the call, was there still a little bit of that in the back of your head? Was it kind of like, this is how I get in? Or were you just like, finally it happens? Or what were your thoughts when the call finally came and, this is how it came about?
It's just one of them things where I knew I wasn't going to get the easy route. I knew it. I knew they wouldn't give me the easy route, or they would have already signed me. And the fact that I knew this would be a really tough fight for me and against a top competitor, I just knew that this was it. I just don't see that there's a lot of challenge out there for her at the time, and I do feel like I'm one of the best. She hasn't been defeated in 10 years. I haven't been defeated in 7 years. So we're kind of like on the same run, and we're both feeling good and doing great in the sport. So, I just don't see there being a better matchup for this card and for a fight against her. So I do think I'm the best competitor out there, and I don't know. I knew it. It wasn't like it was something that I'm like, damn, why couldn't I get a fight at 35? I just kind of, I've been knowing this was going to happen for years. I don't get nothing handed to me. I definitely have to work for everything I have, and I'm always down to do that. So it makes me feel better about it, and it pushes me, and I have to do things and overcome things that I think a lot of fighters don't. So that's why I'm a champion. That's why I've succeeded. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any part of you with this kind of a performance that you do kind of, feel like maybe you can stick it to your detractors a little bit? I mean, listen, Cyborg, is Cyborg for a reason. She didn't get here by accident, but, to get this call up and to step in there the way you are, I'm not saying you're like going to, call out Dana White after the fight, but you know what I mean? Like, because I think myself and most journalists and pretty much everyone in the sport, believes you should have been here before. We believe you should have been in the UFC, a while ago, and that's no offense whatsoever to Invicta, you know what I mean? But it's just a matter of like, we all felt you belong there. So is there a little bit of that maybe just to maybe motivation just to kind of say, hey, look, this is what I can do. This is where I should have been.
You know what? I don't see UFC as a bigger stage than Invicta. I just can't understand the fans that think that it is. I don't think that they realize that. I don't think that they realize that most of the talent, 90% of the talents come from Invicta and went straight over. And I think that, I've been fighting on one of the biggest stages out there, and I've been fighting good competitors. I just happen to be better than them. And I just don't feel like it's any bigger than the promotion I've been fighting for. I fight for one of the best promotions in the world. Invicta is one of the biggest and best promotions in the world. I couldn't have asked for a better run to get me to where I'm at. And I do feel like I've had a couple scares in my career and a couple things, and it just pretty much prepared me. This has prepared me for this fight. And, obviously this is a huge fight. It's for the belt. It's a step up in weight class. It's co-main event on a big card, and that's amazing. And I couldn't be more grateful. But man, these girls are the same level. I feel like in Invicta and UFC, and I don't know. I think I'm. There's a difference when you're talking about the top, 4 girls and then the 5 down. There's always that big gap between there. So obviously in Invicta, I have been. There's a big gap between me and the talent below me, but by no means do I try to fight down. I always go out there to fight up and to finish people, and You know, if I fight the top 5 girls in the ranked in UFC and stuff like that, you know, I think that's where I belong, and that's the type of fights I need, and that's the type of fights that are going to get me more competition and make me a more competitive fighter.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people, when this fight was first announced, you know, there was a lot of excitement because a lot of people know you and know what you bring to the table because, you know, Megan Anderson obviously was kind of a newcomer in terms of her being established in the 145-pound division. But obviously you've been around. People know you. People know your fights. Do you feel like, and this is not taking a slight at Megan Anderson in any way, shape, or form, but do you feel like this is a much tougher fight? Like this is a much better fight, you know, than what we were getting, or you're a tougher opponent, I should say, for Cris Cyborg?
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't think I'm the only one that thinks that. I think that, you know, I feel like I've been running around picking up the pieces for a toddler. You know what I mean? I ran around and fixed her pull off of Invicta and stepped in, and now I'm running up behind her, picking up pieces again and stepping up for Cyborg. And you know, it just is what it is. I definitely am grateful for the opportunity and you know, definitely respect for Megan and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, man, she's only been training 4 years. I think that would show in this fight, and I think that for her it was a payday, and you know, obviously it's the same for me. But I'm out there to fight. I'm out there to fight, and if I'm a star, I am. If I ain't. And obviously we've seen that in my career, and I haven't got the love. And Invicta put a lot of time and a lot of opportunities in my hand, and you know, I just took them, and you know, I think that this is I think that I've earned this shot. I really do.
Yeah. How comfortable are you? I mean, this isn't your first time ever at 145, but how comfortable do you feel fighting at 145?
I love being the bigger girl. You know, I do like being the bigger girl, and you know, I don't know. I know she's probably going to be a little bit bigger than me, but at the end of the day, man, it's just muscles. It's just muscles, and I fight a lot of girls that have a lot of muscles, and they're scary, and people don't want to fight the girls that I fight, and you know, I make myself fight them. Anything that kind of intimidates me or makes me kind of worry, I don't let myself do that. I absolutely almost like force myself. And I've taken short notice fights, and I've taken fights that I wasn't ready for, and this and that. But as soon as I feel like I have any kind of doubt in my mind, I'm like, no, F you, you know, you're taking this fight now. I'm not even going to let myself even think anything like that, you know. So, you know, it's not any different than every other fight. The same nerves, the same emotions, the same everything. Everybody has the same what ifs, and I'm just here to go out there and fight, and I just tell myself, you know what, I'm not going to think about anything. I try not to get wrapped up in the whole, is my belt on the line, if this is on the line, is that on the line, how good this girl is, how, you know, I don't get caught up in that. I just don't care. I know that skill is going to win this fight, and if I fight the way I know how to, I do believe I'm going to win this fight. So, yeah. You know, it's just, I think it's a really tough fight, and it's one that we're going to see some heart from her side and my side, and where, you know, it's going to be a great fight, and I'm looking for fight of the night. I'm sure she is too, and we'll go in there and put on the best show ever, and get a tough fight, and get a little bit more money and a little bit more fame, and you know, walk out of there better fighters.
Yeah. When you look at Cris, you know, she's been so dominant. It's hard from her past MMA fights to really find any chinks in the armor, to really find, you know, any weaknesses she's shown. But, you know, a few people, you know, I think it's kind of like the Anderson Silva effect when he was champion, where he was so good that a lot of people that faced him kind of walked in there a little bit defeated. I'm not going to say they didn't think they could win, but you know what I mean. That little bit of doubt, you know, when you're facing the great Anderson Silva or the great Fedor when he was on his run. How much of, you know, because I'm not going to sit here and profess to know you that well, Tonya, but I know your attitude. You don't really seem, you know, you don't really care. I think we all kind of joked online last night, like, I can only imagine how quickly you accepted this fight because I know that's who you are. Does that kind of attitude, do you feel like, will help you in a fight with Cris Cyborg, where a lot of people, let's be honest, would probably be intimidated by this fight?
You know what? I'm scared for every fight, whether I'm fighting a lower level girl or a high level girl. The emotions are the same for me, and it is that what if factor and all the pressure. And you know, I just I don't know. I'm just trying to take it the same way I do. I don't want to get overwhelmed. I don't want to get caught up in it. And I do think that most of her opponents that go in there are already beat, and they back up against the cage and they let somebody beat on him, let Cyborg beat on him. And I think anybody getting beat on is going to go down. It just you can't stand there and take damage. And obviously, I'm not that fighter. I'm not the fighter that puts on I don't want to stand toe to toe with you. I want to fight you where you don't know how to fight. I want to fight you where I have the least resistance, and whether that's standing up or going to the ground, I'm gonna go where I have the least resistance, and I'm trying to win a fight. I'm not trying to make a fight. I'm not out there just to have a fight. I'm out there to win a fight, and that's the way I think about it.
Yeah. Well, you've been a champion, for quite a while now. But I don't know, maybe, as you said, Invicta is the same level as the UFC, but what would it mean for you to go out there and beat Cris Cyborg to become, the featherweight champion? And I don't want to take anything away from Jermaine or Holly Holm in that fight, but it kind of feels like this is, in a way, kind of the re-inauguration of this division. How big would it be for you to go out there and not only get a win over Cris Cyborg, but to obviously, go out there and actually, win a belt at the same time?
That would be amazing. That really would be amazing. And, I don't know. I don't know. I like everybody asks me these questions when I'm fighting for Invicta, and my belt's on the line every time. And I always say, it ain't about my belt. It's about me winning. That regret at the end of the day that I didn't freaking fight as good as I should have is so much more heartbreaking than I think losing my belt. And wins, all win does is keep that belt in my hand. So, at the end of the day, I just don't want to get overwhelmed and think about all these factors that really don't matter. All these factors come with the win. The only thing that really matters is me going out there and fighting. And I know if I fight the way I know how and I just fight, I will win fight, So I just, that's how I tell myself. I don't get all bent out of shape on all the little parts and details and stuff. I just tell myself, hey, you just go out there and fight. Don't overthink it. Just go out there and fight.
Yeah, and I know your confidence. You always have that confidence there that you can win every fight, and I think that separates you a little bit. And I think that's why a lot of people believe this is a much tougher fight, not only because of your experience and your skill level, but you do have that confidence because a lot of people, when they step in there against Cris Cyborg, we think, oh man, that's a fun fight, but Cris is going to win. That attitude. You hear that all the time. Yeah. I don't have that with this fight anymore. Like, I don't have that with this fight. Like I say, yeah, Cris is a great fighter. Take nothing away from her, but I don't have that in the back of my head saying, well, Cris is going to win. I think that's an element that you bring an element of mystery to this fight that maybe we didn't have before.
Yeah, I definitely think that the fans and people that are watching me, I think that they are real MMA fans. Anybody that's a huge fan of Invicta and actually understands that, the top talent does come from Invicta, and they go to UFC, and even though they're on this high platform stage and getting all this promo and becoming huge stars, I think that they just think that's the end all of MMA, and that's the dream come true. And don't get me wrong, that is the top of the food chain, but you don't always see the top of the talent up there. So I think that Invicta carries a lot of weight in the sport, and the people that are fans of Invicta and understand women's MMA and are real fans of women's MMA, I think that they have a lot of faith in the fact that that I'm ready and that I can actually do something with this fight.
Yeah. So my last question, Tonya, I'll get you out of here on this. There's a million different ways a fight could come out. I'm not going to ask you to play Conor McGregor and tell me exactly how this fight's going to end, but how confident are you, walking into that arena on July 29th, that you're going to walk out with a win over Cris Cyborg and with that UFC title wrapped around your waist?
I want it. I want it as much as I want this Invicta belt and to reign and hold my title, as much as I want this belt and to win this fight. I think it is the biggest fight of my career, and I think that I couldn't ask for a better introduction into the UFC. It's a lot of pressure and it's a huge card, and I knew this was coming, and there's no other way to prepare myself than to sit here and think about it for years, and then it actually happened. I mean, my nerves have been getting in the way since we've been starting to talk about this fight, and it's been this long. So, I don't feel any different than any other fight. But man, it would be amazing to step out of that cage with a win, and just kind of give the finger to everybody, but not in real life. I don't want to get in trouble.
Well, Tonya, thank you so much for taking the time. Obviously, safe training the rest of the way. Like I said, I'm legit excited for this fight. I know you're excited for this fight. As soon as it happened, I was pretty jazzed. So thank you so much for the time, and I look forward to talking to you, like I said, hopefully after this one's over.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.